heard a few days ago that I just thought, oh, that is spot on. There's things we hear in our life, right? And think of the last time you heard one, it was just like stopped you in your tracks, like, oh, yeah, that's absolutely true. And this was one I heard and I just thought it was spot on, which is all seeds start in the dark. I want to repeat that. All seeds start in the dark. I think that's just a really, really beautiful way to sort of hold life, that all seeds start in the dark. And it tells you, that again, God is doing all these things underneath the surface that we have no idea. And from Christian New Church theology, that's the work of divine providence. There's all kinds of things happening that we have no clue about. And all of a sudden, like, there it is. And just even think, those of you who have gone through women who are watching, gone through the miracle of childbirth, just think about that. Like all that growth of that child, and all that growth before you ever met the child, and yet you've consciously, you're pregnant, right? I would imagine, right? But consciously, you're not thinking through, oh, now the heart, now the lungs, now it just is happening. And that's, I think, so much the way God works. Like, so many of the things are these seeds that are growing in the dark that we know nothing about. We may know that it's happening, but we don't know any of the mechanics of it, thankfully, and it's not ours to determine that. So I want to hold that out in one frame. And then in the other frame, I want to ask us all to just think through, what is your explanatory style? And I love that phrase, explanatory style. So we all have a box, and it's our explanatory style. Like, here it is, we hand it over and we put things into that box, and our explanatory style will largely determine how we hold those things. It gets back to Kate Bowler's great quote, what else is heaven but a new set of glasses? And that's because that can be an explanatory style. Seeing life as heaven can be an explanatory style. And I think it's real important, too, to remember, like with explanatory styles, there are real negative explanatory styles that we have to be aware of. Personally, for me, one of mine is, I can't figure this out. I just can't do this. And it's tax season. So welcome, for me, that's like instant walls up. That's kind of a pretty bad explanatory style. I just can't figure it out. Well, I've got 2 masters. I probably could, but in my mind, I can't. And I imagine you have the same sort of things. You have areas where your explanatory style is actually debilitating. In other words, here's the ability, and it's debilitating. So it takes away the ability to do something, which is, I can never figure that out. I'm no good at that. I'm no this. I'm no that. And that's an explanatory style. And so much of life is getting that we are always free to determine our explanatory style. That is where God will always grant us freedom. And you get to choose. Like, we're all self-employed. We get to choose where we consider ourselves completely unable to do anything. Now, are there some areas where we're unable to do stuff? Absolutely. There's tons of them. For me, for example, I'll never dunk a basketball. I know that, and that's okay. Like, that's accurate. That's a candid view of myself. And I imagine there's things like that for you too, where there's just some things you're not going to be able to do. But just be careful when you're looking at explanatory style that you're not sort of foregoing everything. Now, how do the two connect? Well, just remember that God is constantly at work with divine providence, with great river that runs through it, constantly pulling us to our better, higher selves, constantly pulling us towards heaven. That's what God is doing. That's what everything is arranged to do, is to get us there. And if we have an explanatory style that just is constantly downplaying, like, I can't serve, I can't do that. Well, I've heard this one, literally I've heard this one, well, I don't want to say a million because it's probably not literally a million, but it feels like a million times. If I go back to church, the walls will crack and come tumbling down, which is a load of hooey. That is just not true. And, all these crazy explanatory styles like I can't, or negativity, or life isn't, one that's a hard one is life just isn't fair. Things aren't fair, blah, blah, blah. That's an explanatory style that will definitively lead you to live a certain way, and it'll be hard for those seeds to really sprout. Now, again, look at the explanatory styles you have that help life. Look at the explanatory styles you have that hurt life. Look at the explanatory styles that help that seed to grow. Look at the explanatory styles that don't. Explanatory style that helps those seeds to grow is simple curiosity. Like, I don't quite know how this is going to work, but we'll see. God's in charge. And the explanatory style that doesn't work with that, again, I'm going to harp back on that one, is life isn't fair. That will not help with life. Now, is life unfair at certain times? Yeah, of course, of course. But if that's the way you're going to explain the world, it's not going to allow things to grow the way they could. So think about your explanatory style, and just remember that there's things getting planted in your life right now that you have no idea. You may have a little tingle that something is happening, and it may take decades. It may take to eternity to really take root and to flower and become whatever. But God's got eternity to work with, so I don't think he's all that worried. So, friends, that's the thought for today. Remember that all seeds are planted in the dark, and that means even if you're in a dark time, seeds are being planted. And the second part is just remember, your part of that equation is the explanatory style. What's your explanatory style for life? Try to figure out one that really works. And if you have one that's not working, get rid of it. Figure out something that's better, that's more aligned with God's divine providence. All right, friends, that's my thought for today. And what we're going to do now is we're going to ring the prayer bell. We're going to do a little meditation, a little prayer, a little blessing, and then we will say hi to our friends who are on Facebook today. So with that, let's get a little breath. And the prayer bell. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still, know that I. Be still and know that. Be still and know. Be still and. Be still. Be. Our Father, who art in the heavens, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as in heaven, so upon the earth. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you, bring you peace, and bring you home. Amen. All right, dear friends, let's get a little quick cheery hello to folks who might have joined us on Facebook. Let's see, comments on data page, so we'll flip on over. Again, kind of funny, landing from in Florida. This is not to rub it in. It's just as a funny observation, just landing and seeing snow. That's like, oh my goodness, that's a little different. Marcus, good morning to you, buddy. So friends, again, like yesterday, just please remember there's lots of comments that people write in there throughout the day. Love seeing that. Please make sure to leave a comment if something strikes you. We always love to hear from those of you who watch 10 Minutes of Morning Calm. So friends, God bless you. Have a wonderful